Welcome to the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If you're considering divorce, it's important to know that you have options for how you divorce. On the Respectful Divorce Podcast, we explore those options and provide advice from divorce professionals. I'm your host, Tim Crouch, and today we're talking with two members of the Central Ohio Academy of Collaborative Divorce Professionals. Joining us today are collaborative divorce attorney Meis with the Trollinger Law Firm in Columbus and Certified Divorce Financial Analyst Terrie Austin with Modern Divorce Solutions, also in Columbus. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So, Michelle, I want to start with you. As a divorce attorney, what's it like for someone to go through the divorce process in the Columbus area?
I'll give the standard legal answer. It depends. So it depends on whether you have children or whether you don't have children. But in Columbus in particular, we're in Franklin County, which is one of the largest counties in the state of Ohio. And therefore, things can take a little bit longer. So if you have children, it's possible you could be in litigation for a year and a half or more even. Supreme Court of Ohio says you're supposed to be done with your divorce in a year and a half. But I have certainly had cases, particularly in Franklin County, that have gone well past that simply because there are a variety of issues. The court's docket might be busy. So it can take a lot of time. And obviously, the more you're in court, the more money you're spending. And certainly, whatever process you choose can be emotionally and mentally taxing. So it's an exhausting process and it's a very expensive process.
Terrie, as a CDFA, the money is kind of your area. So from the standpoint of traditional divorce, what is it that you see what people go through in the divorce process?
Well, I'll just emphasize what Michelle said. It just takes so much longer and it's so much more money. In addition to my work as a financial neutral with our collaborative divorce group here in Central Ohio, I do mediations and I work as an advocate for individuals who are in the middle of a contentious litigated divorce, going the traditional route. And some people just end up going that way and then find me afterwards or whatever. But in those cases, I'm working with individuals right now that we're 1.5, 2 years in. And it's just because there isn't that planned collaboration between attorneys, and you're doing what typically happens is an attorney writes the other attorney an email and says you have 30 days to respond. And sometimes they respond in 30 and sometimes it's longer. And then you have to talk with your attorney and figure all this out and then respond back. And it's just so inefficient when you could be doing it in a way where everybody just sits in a room and talks and makes decisions and gets it done faster. So it's just to reiterate what Michelle said, it's so much more time consuming and so much more expensive.
So how is the collaborative divorce process different in terms of how it makes it more efficient and what happens that allows that to move forward in a better way than in the litigated process, Terrie?
Well, from my perspective, it's just that as I said before, everyone gets together and has a conversation in a room. So both parties choose a collaboratively trained attorney, and then your team is built with your mental health professional who serves as a coach and guiding everyone through the process in the meetings. And then there's a financial neutral, such as myself, helping educate about the numbers and make decisions. And the whole thing is determined, the time frame is determined on everyone's ability to provide the information and get together and have these joint conversations. And the costs are just so much less because your time together is very efficient. And it's money well spent when you're in a room making these decisions rather than paying for, emails back and forth and phone calls and things like that.
And Michelle, part of the whole collaborative process is that everybody agrees at the beginning to stay out of court, right?
That's correct. There's nothing filed with the court. There's no threats of filing with court. I mean, even a threat alone will get you kind of kicked out of collaborative divorce. So the idea is that everyone is on board. We're going to work together, and we're going to make the most of our time, and we're not going to spend money and things on preliminary motions and things like that. So.
And when you stay out of court, part of what that ends up meaning is that you're not waiting on the court schedule.
That's correct. That can be a huge part of it. Certainly, I've had trials where, we have day one maybe in January, and simply because of the court schedule and perhaps, the multiple attorneys' schedules, we can't get back in for day two until, March or April. So it can really delay things.
And Terrie, part of the collaborative process also is that you have these neutrals like yourself and a divorce coach or a mental health professional who bring some special skills into the divorce process. How do you do that, and what does it mean to be neutral versus on one side or the other?
Those are very good questions. The way I do my job, particularly as a financial neutral, is, and the reason I think it's beneficial to have a financial neutral in every divorce case, whether it's collaborative or not, is that we have our own community throughout the United States, and we are always getting together and talking about creative financial solutions in divorce. And I'll be talking on in a Facebook group or on a webinar or a joint call with some other colleagues around the country. And we'll be talking about cases. And we come up with all these interesting ideas of ways to solve certain financial problems that maybe the others of us haven't thought about. And most definitely a lot of attorneys haven't thought about, because their expertise is the law. And, I sit, eat, drink, and breathe finance and divorce finance all day, every day. So, and it's not hard to be neutral in a case, because, I mean, at times it is, because you sit there. Our role and our goal is to educate the parties and let them make their decisions, because that's the beauty of the process, is that the court, a magistrate or a judge, is not going to make these decisions for you. You're in this process because you want to make your own decisions. And so our goal is to educate them as to what they might expect in certain situations if you were going to follow the letter of the law. And then the couple can make their decision within those parameters of how they want their agreement to turn out. And, in educating them, there are times where I definitely think, oh, I think, I'm thinking to myself, I wish you would do this because this is a better solution. But if I present all the solutions, it's really up to the couple, the parties, to make their own decisions.
And one of the things that, as I understand it, you do as the financial professional that's different in the collaborative process from the litigated process is you're helping the couple to see what their financial life is going to look like after the divorce, right?
Right. And that is very helpful. And I think I don't really know how anyone can agree to a settlement offer without knowing how it's going to affect you going forward. There are so many nuances in a financial plan or a forward cash flow projection. And it really, I find, when I can have that conversation with each party and say, if we were to sign the papers and this were your settlement, let's put it into a financial planning program and kind of show you what this is going to look like in the future and what it's going to mean for you. And when, in the case of someone receiving support, when your support runs out in 4 years or your child support stops at this stage, where are you going to stand as far as income? Will you have enough assets to generate, or are you going to have to use this 4 years to really increase your skills and get back out there in the workforce and make $30,000 more than you're making now? So that becomes a very enlightening and helpful factor for each of the parties, for them to understand that the settlement that they're agreeing to makes sense for them.
And Michelle, we talk about the neutrals in the case, but as the attorneys, you're not neutral, right?
No, I'm always looking out for my client's best interest, but you take a less adversarial approach. You want to educate your client and let them know what things would be like had they filed for divorce, what would a court award you. And so if the client chooses something as part of the settlement process that maybe is, a worse off decision, I would say, than what a court might do, they're doing it because they're educated, and there's an underlying reason as to why they've chosen to do that. I think with the collaborative process, it's important to note that parties are able to reach these agreements where they can put in details and things that a court's not necessarily going to do, both from a financial perspective and from a child-related aspect. The court has kind of boxes they have to tick, and they have to do everything within the confines of the law. So you can get things in a settlement agreement, both financial and child-related, that you would not get from a court simply because they're not allowed to do it. But if you agree to it, then the court will honor that.
I've heard people talk about, for attorneys, the hardest part of becoming a collaborative professional is you have to make a paradigm shift. You have to start thinking differently.
Yeah, I would agree. I will say there are other attorneys at my firm who just are more adversarial by nature. I think that I really focus on the details of the law, I would say, and how we can use those to reach these creative results, both for the best interest of my client and their future family as they move forward.
So what attracted you, Michelle, to the collaborative process? Why did you decide this was going to be part of your practice?
I do think clients tend to be happier when they reach their own agreements. They're not going to get everything they want. That's what happens when you work together and you make concessions to reach that agreement. But most of the time, they are far happier than they would be if a stranger made decisions about their children, made decisions about their financial future. And a lot of times, those people don't come back to court on any type of post-decree issue. So I think it just makes for a happier client and sets them up for I won't say easier future, but better future where they kind of know what's coming.
Yeah. And Terrie, your business is Modern Divorce Solutions, but what attracted you to the collaborative process?
Oh, gosh, so many things. As a financial advisor, I've been a financial advisor, certified financial planner since 1998, I think. So that's a lot of years. But at any rate, in my practice, I was attracting women after divorce. And it started to become a theme that every time I would look at a divorce decree and say, well, let's look and see what you were awarded and make sure that we follow through with actually getting all the assets moved that you were supposed to get. Sometimes I would see something and it would say, for example, this woman, she was probably my real impetus. I asked her, I said, why didn't you get part of your husband's pension? You were married for 20 years. And she said, well, he worked and earned a lot of that pension before I met him. And so he told me that I didn't really deserve that, but he would give me $20,000 down payment on a condo instead. And I was thinking to myself, wow, that is not a fair trade. But they worked this out at their own kitchen table without advice from anyone. And she just accepted what he told her. And she didn't have an advocate and she didn't know any better. And may she rest in peace. She actually just died at age 70. But she literally, had she lived to 80, she was going to run out of money. And so when I saw this person, and I kept seeing this over and over, that women tend, and I'm not trying to be gender specific or anything, but women tend to want to say, let's just get it over with. You can have it. I'll deal with it later. I just want the kids more often, or I want the house. They make decisions based on emotions rather than real financial decisions. And so I just wanted to figure out, how can I get in front of this process and stop women from acting emotionally on this decision that has a very, very important financial impact on the rest of their lives. So that's what drew me into it. Besides the fact that I got divorced back in 2006, and I wasn't in this business at the time. I was a financial advisor, but I didn't really know what I didn't know back then without having this experience in divorce. And I gave up. I just threw out a number, said, give me this, give me that, and let's move on. And when I look back at that, I wished I had somebody saying, hold on, you're giving away the farm, so it's just I just, the numbers are the numbers, and it's not about trying to get anybody more than they deserve. It's just about getting in front of the process and making sure that the people making these really important financial decisions are doing it from a very informed perspective.
Michelle, it looked like you might have some thoughts to add to some of what Terrie was saying.
Yeah, just I do find that both sides tend to make decisions based on emotion, if you will. I don't know that it's necessarily gender specific. I think it just is dependent upon what their factual situation is. I will say that there are trends for certain generations as to maybe who has a better idea of the finances, or certain generations tend to fall more into those traditional gender roles, which you kind of have to understand when you're advising them. But I think it does run the gamut. I wouldn't say that there's one gender in particular that tends to run on emotions, or I think it just really just depends on the facts of that specific case.
Well, so y'all are members of the Central Ohio Academy of Collaborative Divorce Professionals. Terrie, what is that organization?
Well, it's an organization with a very long name. Hence, we decided to make our website easier to find, which is just winwindivorce.org, because it is an organization where we're trying to promote a win-win situation for both parties. The goal, really, and the mission of our group is to help couples reach a respectful and dignified termination of their marriage and make it much more cost effective. And, we want to minimize the conflict by using the collaboratively trained professionals in the attorneys, the mental health professionals, and the financial neutrals.
Yeah. And Michelle, win-win for a lot of lawyers almost probably raises the hair on the back of their neck, because they want a win-lose proposition, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously you always want to get, kind of the upper hand for your client, but what you really want when it comes to collaborative divorce is just that your client walks away happy. And certainly, again, win-win, both sides are not getting everything they want. Just that's the way that a compromise works. But I will say everyone's probably going to walk away with a lot better of an outcome than they would have had they had to litigate this for a year, 2, even 3 years.
Yeah. So we're doing this podcast ahead of Divorce with Respect Week, which is coming up March 1st through 8th. During Divorce with Respect Week, people can do a free consultation with participating attorneys and financial professionals, mental health professionals. If somebody was to do a consultation with you, Michelle, what would that consultation look like? What should they expect to learn?
Yeah, so I basically walk them through all of their options. What does a divorce look like? What does the collaborative process look like? What does a dissolution look like? And a dissolution and a collaborative divorce are two separate things, even though people tend to conflate them. I talk about what they're entitled to, what a court might do, depending on what county they're in, because different counties kind of rule a little bit differently. So I walk them through what to expect, and then I educate them as to what their options are. I will tell them if I think collaborative divorce is a good option for them, because it's not for everyone. Certainly there are people who I think would probably spend more than necessary because you are paying for experts, but there are a lot of people, particularly I would say people with a decent amount of assets that could certainly benefit. And if someone is in the dark as to maybe the other side's finances, or just generally didn't take that role during the marriage, I think collaborative divorce can really set the stage for them to kind of learn all of these things and not feel like, someone's trying to trick them, and they can then make those educated decisions.
Yeah. And Terrie, if somebody's doing a consultation with you, it's obviously because they've got real financial questions. What can they expect in a consultation?
It's really an education and a fact-finding discussion for us. If I'm the person that they call first, I would go through what Michelle was saying she goes through and explain all the different ways that you can end your marriage and what the advantages and disadvantages of each are. And then I would ask them what their goals were and how they felt as far as their partner or their soon-to-be ex, if they think that they can be agreeable, amenable, transparent, and open to negotiation, and hopefully steer them toward the collaborative process. Because in the end, like I said before, my mantra is the numbers are the numbers. And, I've worked with clients who have gone through a mediation with me and done wonderfully. And then we have two issues at the end that somebody's digging their heels in on. And a couple of times this has ended up going to court because they couldn't agree on these last two things. They were just real sticking points. And the reality is they spent several thousand more dollars going to court, and they ended up with the same settlement that would have happened, the same outcome that would have happened if they had just agreed to these things and listened to what I and some other professionals were telling them, that it's going to end up somewhere in this range. You two are really better off just making this decision yourself. But, that's a side story. But in reality, to tell some stories about how divorce usually goes and what I've seen in my 8 years of experience in over 200 different cases, that's a lot of experience to draw from and to explain to them that there is a better way to do this.
All right, Michelle Meis and Terrie Austin, thank you for joining us today on the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If someone wants to reach out to you individually, what's the best way to reach you? Terrie?
For me, it's my website, which is moderndivorcesolutions.com, and you'll see all of the contact information that you need to get a hold of me there.
Okay, and Michelle?
So you can go to my firm's website. It's trollingerlaw.com, and I'll spell Trollinger because it's often misspelled, Trolinger. That's trollingerlaw.com. And then you can also contact my office directly, and the number is on the website.
Yeah, that's one L in Trollinger.
That's correct. Yeah. Yes, there's always two put in there.
We will put all of that contact information, links to the websites and links to the winwindivorce.org site in the show notes. Thank you for watching the Respectful Divorce Podcast today. This reminder that the Divorce with Respect Week is coming up March 1st through 8th. You can talk with divorce professionals, including attorneys, financial professionals, and divorce coaches for free by going to divorcewithrespectweek.com to find a professional near you. Divorce with Respect Week, March 1st through 8th, and that website, once again, www.divorcewithrespectweek.com. I'm Tim Crouch for the Respectful Divorce Podcast, reminding you that collaborative divorce is a better way to untie the knot.